Hello, this is Dr. B, your nerdy criminal justice professor. This is another lecture video for the course Probation and Parole, CRJU 251. This video accompanies Chapter 1 of the Morgan textbook, Probation, Parole, and Community Corrections Work in Theory and Practice. The first thing you need to know about probation and parole is that they are both decidedly criminal sanctions that espouse the rehabilitation model. Morgan does a good job describing processing through the criminal justice system through a community corrections lens. She adds the legislative phase, which is unique to her model. However, it is legislative bodies that determine what is and is not a crime and the punishments that accompany criminal behaviors. But I want to focus on questions that are raised on page 8 of the book. Probation, especially, is involved in answering these questions prior to sentencing. Should a convicted offender be incarcerated or placed in the community under probation or other community sanction? If the offender is placed in the community, what special conditions should be placed on that offender? Much of what we do in this class will relate to these two questions, either directly or indirectly. It is also important for you to know about Martinson's study from 1974 that concluded, quote, "nothing works," end quote. That study, that was released in the same year that Richard Nixon became the only U.S. president to resign his presidency, played an important role in the 3 decades that followed that saw criminal justice policymakers proceed from a get tough on crime foundation. It is important to note that there have been several rehabilitation programs developed since the Martinson study. At least some of those programs have been shown to be effective at reducing recidivism. At this juncture, however, it is important to remind you of the dark figure of crime. These are crimes that do not make it into the crime statistics because we are unaware that they have been committed. Part of that dark figure of crime is what I call the dark figure of recidivism. When we measure recidivism, we must always bear in mind that the true numbers are likely larger than the numbers that we know. Sex offender treatment programs appear to be effective in reducing reoffense rates among child sex offenders. When we look at known reoffense rates among sex offenders who have had no treatment, it appears that 18 to 22% will commit a new sexual offense. The reoffense rate among child sex offenders who have undergone treatment and completed their community supervision is at about 8 to 12%. While the numbers are likely higher, we can still conclude that treatment reduces recidivism rates among child sex offenders. In other words, we know that rehabilitation programs are at least partially effective. One last thing I would like to mention from this chapter is the idea of net widening. Morgan points out that community sanctions, such as probation and parole, have been used as a way of reducing incarceration rates. However, there is some evidence that, at least in some jurisdictions, officers tend to file violation reports for minor infractions, increasing rather than decreasing incarceration rates. There are some rates there are some states that actually have a policy that prohibits officers from filing a violation report for infractions such as marijuana use. That's enough for now. I'll see you next video.